Oh, hello there. Oh, good to see you. How you doing? I'm host Eric, and welcome to Talking with Fantasy People. This is my beloved Rachel. She's a little bit spent. Was a little tired, but you know what? We're here today to discuss the upcoming telethon that we're going to be having, and how to successfully pathologize those people that we're pretending to have a telethon for. So, my position here is the best way to pretend to help while actually pathologizing the people that I want to criticize is to frame it in terms of helping others be honest. Because and this is the idea behind it. Dave's superpowers, C.S. Joseph, Queen's Gambit, they are not dishonest. They're not. This is the pitch anyway. C.S. Joseph, I'm not really sure about, to be honest, but I'm pretty sure that Dave's superpowers and Queen's Gambit aren't being dishonest. Dave's superpowers is just doesn't care about the abstractions really. Queen's Gambit may be a little bit wonky, I'm not quite sure what's going on with that guy, but the thing is, my point is that when I'm inclined to say go after CSJ for being a scoundrel or something, I need to remember that he's one of those people who is constitutionally incapable of being honest with themselves. So that's what AA talks about and there are such unfortunates. They're constitutionally incapable of being honest with themselves. There are such unfortunates. But it's not really them constitutionally being unable to be honest with themselves. It's them trying, being a fern and trying to survive in very cold weather, very wintry climate conditions. Being an orchid and trying to survive in northern Canada. It's like that's the problem. That's what they're not. And just because maybe they can scrape out a berry or two here or there and keep themselves sort of alive in the north, that's not a good reason to think that it's okay that they're there. In other words, I live in Los Angeles. It's pretty hot here. It's not really fair to bring a St. Bernard here. St. Bernard's not going to be very comfortable here. They're not made to be in this kind of environment. They're meant to be in the snowy conditions where they can have their big fur be a useful thing, right? Same thing with typology. The people who talk about typology are all doing the same job, which is we're carrying little barrel of whiskey around our neck to somebody who's buried in the snow, right? Unfortunately, there are a lot of species of dogs out there who cannot tell whether the thing in their barrel is whiskey or water or hydrochloric acid. They're not exactly being dishonest. They're just not being proactively honest. Again, C.S. Joseph, I'm not sure. I have no way of knowing if the guy, it seems impossible to me that he's not fully aware of what he's doing. It seems impossible, but antipolar can shock the hell out of you sometimes. Regardless, the point is, let's afford him the benefit of the doubt and assume he's not capable instead of knowing what's inside his little barrel. Let's pretend that St. Bernards are not just a breed of dogs that is good at surviving in cold weather, but that they're also a breed of dogs that successfully can identify little barrels of whiskey and tie them around their own necks. Let's pretend that, right? If you're a husky, maybe C.S. Joseph's going to call him a husky. He goes, look, I'm surviving beautifully in this cold weather. And I've got a barrel around my neck, just like the St. Bernards do. And, of course, the reason that they're not being dishonest, but are failing to be honest, is that they're not self-assessing their own capacity to tell what's in their barrel. So it's like, it's the same sort of thing as the guy who was a sign language interpreter in Africa who was just making shit up, but did not actually know any sign language. I bet you, after the fact, it took quite a bit of convincing, if he was able to be convinced at all, to convince that guy he doesn't actually know sign language. I wish it were just history's most hilarious prank, but I bet you that guy actually thinks he knows sign language. That's how like framework people can get. That they, it's like we see this all the time, right? In cognitive functions. You see it constantly. People come around here or just anywhere, and they start talking about it like they're experts, and they don't know a goddamn thing about it. And they don't know how to think about it. They know so little, they're unable to recognize that they don't know. That's why I'm saying, trying to figure out a way to make people proactively honest is a much more winnable war than trying to make people acknowledge that they're being dishonest. Because I think they're not being dishonest. It's like, well, you know me, ladies, for all my long-standing distrust of canals. It stems from trauma in childhood. I was taken on an unbelievably long and torturous outing by a guy dressed up as a Venetian canal boat pusher. And ever since then, I've been terrified of canals. A ship can't jackknife itself. Well, not usually. You'd have to kind of put a serrated part in the middle, probably. Why are there serrations on my boat? Well, that's what I get able to use a jackknife more easily. So, I'm not sure when I'm going to have this telethon sometime in the next couple of months, but it is when I do have the telethon. It's going to be an extremely dishonest telethon, right? It's going to do what they do all the time. It's going to just posture, position shit in bullshit ways. It's going to insist that the reason I'm a bad drummer is because I only have one arm. I'm just going to just go full out. Here, you taste this shit you keep feeding me. Fuckers. Oh yeah, there's some time when I've got a full like 8 hours of time. I don't know what the maximum amount of time you can live stream for is. I think it's 8 hours.
I don't know. But they may have 10.
It may have done 10. Okay, yeah, okay. So I'll have a 10-hour telethon where the whole time I have a series of me making impassioned, earnest speeches about how important these people's, disease is. And I have people for money. But inform everybody, I'm going to be keeping the money to continue doing my good work and raising awareness. So it'll be called a telethon for C.S. Joseph and Dave Superpower specifically. But they won't get any of the money. All the money goes to me. Well, I'll tell you what else I'm kind of excited about. I just sort of picked album 3 randomly. Well, I mean, it wasn't a bad album to do, you know. But I've got album, I think it's 1 or 4. I've taken pictures of 4 albums so far, and we've got like probably 40 of them or something, or 50. I don't know. We got a shit ton of fucking photo albums around. I was thinking about doing album 1. I liked that video I made yesterday. It gave me a lot of SI satisfaction, or a lot of NISI satisfaction, because SI fourth, there's this need to keep retelling your own story so you don't lose it. People just calling it solve problems. No, what you're talking about, Legends Fall, is Carl's Insightful Solutions. Hi, I'm Carl. I host a radio program called Carl's Insightful Solutions here in Oxnard on 94.7 The Nard. It's mostly classic rock, but Carl's Insightful Solutions. Hi, we got a caller there? Yes, hi. What's your question, caller? What's that? You got a mouthful of guinea pigs. Okay, here's your solution. Split them out. That's Carl's Insightful Solutions. He has a show on 94.7 The Nard, Oxnard's only classic rock. Another solution-based thing that we were talking about today is Solutions by Eric, which is the one person you don't want to call to solve your problem. See, long ago, when I was hanging out with Corey a lot, but also at the same time that I was really embracing this idea that if I could just organize one room properly, that I can have everything I want to play with all within arm's reach. I just realized this is impossible, because you can't do woodworking in the same space you're doing audio. You just can't. You're gonna have sawdust all over everything. There's just no way to avoid it. Every day I believe more and more that Eric is schizophrenic. Mortgage, that does it is on the DRM checklist here for mortgage is insane. Thinks Eric's schizophrenic. Check. I'm not schizophrenic. I'm schizofantastic. Don't you forget it. So I don't know if you guys watched it, but WOW, wow. That UCLA Gonzaga game was incredible. That's one of the best basketball games I've ever seen. It was, whew. Both teams were playing beautifully. No, you can't, Winston's mom. It's not possible. What I'm trying to do is a pipe dream. What I was trying to do back then. I've given up on it long ago. You cannot have all of your fun stuff in one room. You have to give certain things their own spaces because they need their own spaces. Bing Crosby went to Gonzaga. Well, let me tell you something, Winston's mom. If he didn't play basketball for Gonzaga, then nobody cared about him. So anyway, during that time period when I was trying to organize my kitchen to be the one room that I could do everything in and have everything. I had shit like hanging down from the ceiling and all kind of stuff. And one time, Corey came over and I was in the middle of like holding this thing with my elbow while trying to nail this thing in over here, some stupid ass shit like that. And he's like, Solutions by Eric. Ever since then, I had a nice NI package to understand what it was I am. I mean, it's such a FE concern all over my hand. I mean, it's, mods around here are naturally occurring primarily. Normally, people become mods because they want to post something. And if I forget to unmoderate them and they don't ever do anything to bug me, then there's not really any reason to unmoderate them. There's this sense also that it's FE smarter to have a very select, small group of mods, and so that everybody understands that this isn't just a small group of people who all know each other hanging out. This is an important channel with just one or two mods. Or, Eric, you're destroying the whole idea of mods. You make everybody a mod. I mean, the thing is, I don't give a fuck. It's like, the only thing I think about mods is this. I hate the fact that it exists in that people get really fussy about it. Like, what can you hear about London, man? It's like, oh, fuck. It's like teaching elementary school. Oh, fuck. Do I have to teach elementary school today? Why? I hate those little kids. So I used to think when I was a substitute teacher for the county and I had to go do elementary, I'd be like, fucking little kids.
It's tough. I wouldn't want to do it.
But, the thing is, I was teaching special ed, so it was even worse. You know what, Cam? I didn't see your name first. So I assumed that was just a troll or a joke or something. You actually are meeting with my dad tomorrow.
Oh.
Cam's going to meet with my dad tomorrow at 10. Are you guys going to Sunrise or what? Yeah, totally. Come on over. That's great. Oh, Easter? I mean, I don't know. We never celebrated Easter, really. I mean, when I was a kid, I got Easter basket with candy and fake grass and stuff.
That was fun.
That was fine. Yeah, I liked that. There was the Easter egg hunt. Yeah, I was a little less fond of the hunt than a lot of children were. Mm-hmm. I just thought, I mean,
it gets super competitive. You get mean.
I mean, my thinking was basically, okay, I get it. Look around a bunch and maybe you find one. Is that all there is to this? Like, what? How is this fun? I'm not getting this game. I mean, you can play this game. Cool, it's a mark game. You can play this game anytime with rocks. Like, hey, I've hidden some rocks around here. Oh, well, sure, if you're going to give away money, if you're going to hide money in the bushes. But even then, as a kid, I probably would have thought, do you really need to hide in the bushes? Can't you just give it to me?
Yeah, like, wait, were you playing it by yourself?
No. The only time I ever did Easter egg hunts was when, like, my parents would take me to some thing where they had an Easter egg hunt.
Ah.
I never had any naturally occurring Easter egg hunts, I don't think. Because Easter meant I got up, there was a basket, there was candy, there was fake grass. And that was about it. That's all. That was
Yeah.
Easter. And and we had, when my grandma was alive, we'd have dinner together on Easter. But that was Sunday in general. We always had Sunday dinner over there. So it was just more like fancy on Easter, I guess. Maybe we'd have it at my house instead of grandma's house on Easter. I don't know. It wasn't that different of a day than any other day, really. But if we were on vacation or something and it was Easter and they go, oh, David, look, they've got a community Easter egg hunt in this great town that we're visiting. Eric would love that. They didn't really spend a lot of time asking me what I wanted to do. They just sort of determined that I would love things, and being FI polar or not love things, or tell me what I liked or didn't like. Being FI polar, I was just like, well, I guess so. I don't know. I guess I like that. But I just remember thinking Easter egg hunts were conceptually boring, basically. Because there's not enough unique hiding places, in which case it's just brute force looking through the grass. Or there's too many unique hiding places, in which case it's just luck and or extra effort to get you Easter eggs. There's no logic to it. There's no wisdom to it, right? You can kind of guess where people are going to be like, oh, they probably put it in a potted plant. They probably put it over there or whatever. But I don't know. I thought, like, okay, I get it. There's money in them and shit. But Easter egg hunts that I was involved with at all, neighbor's house or whatever, or even the community ones, had actual eggs that were dyed. And the other thing I thought was, these eggs are gross. Like, I don't want to eat these.
Wait, you would actually get eggs?
I have never been on an Easter egg hunt where they didn't have actual dyed eggs that you collected.
Wow. That's definitely a generational thing.
Yeah, it must be, because that was part of the problem I have with Easter egg hunts is, well, I don't even want these things. I don't want these eggs, so why am I hunting for them?
The problem is because the Easter eggs are plastic and they usually have candy or money in them.
Yeah, well, that's not how it played out in the 70s. Cameron, do you remember hunting for plastic eggs in the 70s? At least around here, everybody dyed actual Easter eggs. That was the other thing about Easter. That was the other thing you did at Easter you hard-boiled a bunch of eggs and you dyed them. And then you hid them, and then you found them, and then you're supposed to eat them.
Ew, that's probably the traditional. Honestly, that probably is the traditional way.
Yeah, she tried the bike. I guess it's still losing air. I was thinking about getting a can of fixed flat and squirting it in there or something. But I backburned the issue.
It's okay. But he was correct that, the back tire is still flat. But thank you.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Cameron. I'm sorry I don't thank you enough for all the nice things you do for us. You're really great. I appreciate it. I don't like Peeps. They're too yellow. They're too sweet. They're too sweet and yellow.
I like them, but I like marshmallows.
Yeah, well, Cameron, you're what, 2-3 years younger than me? And also, hey, Cameron, let's not lie to ourselves. You grew up in a condominium complex. So they didn't have real Easter eggs because you were poor. Okay. Up here in the village, we only had real Easter eggs. I mean, but see, that's the whole point of hiding Easter eggs. The Easter egg hunt is you hard boil some eggs, you dye them, right? And then, but you can't eat them yet. You can't eat your delicious hard boiled eggs yet. Nope. You got to work for those hard-boiled eggs. I'm going to go hide them in the bushes, and you got to go find them. And, of course, the gross thing is there's usually one that doesn't get found. And then you start to stink. The smell is awful stench. It's an Easter egg. Yeah. That's the whole point of an Easter egg hunt, though, right? Why would you hunt for Easter eggs if they aren't real eggs? Because in the olden days, it's like Easter was a special day when even children were allowed protein. But then we're just going to give it to them I had to make him go hunt for it by hiding eggs in the bushes. That's the origin of the Easter tradition. Yeah, that's the only motivation. They're gonna rot. Here, let me hide a bunch of rot bombs around my house and then challenge myself to find them. I do remember hiding Easter eggs for Delilah that were not real eggs. I mean, I had forsaken the real egg thing, I guess, as a parent. For as far as the hiding part, I do remember still dyeing eggs with her, though, real eggs. But they never left the fridge after they got hard boiled and dyed. That's the gross part. Is them. Oh, Alhambra was your hood until '84. I had no idea, Cameron. You're a foreigner. And then the truth comes out. I moved here when I was 3. I'm not a native Arcadian either. What's going on out there? We've got some kind of intruder. Awesome.
Really?
Yeah. It's the possum again. Oh, possumy possum. You're so possumly awesome. YS. Hi. Cameron, I have not thought about those confetti eggs for a long time. And now I remember just how much I hated those confetti eggs. That was a popular thing. You run up to the other kids and you hit them on the head with the confetti egg. I hated those things. Me, Queen's Gambit, I want a free typing session from you. I want you to offer me a free typing session. Let's record it. That'll get a shit ton of views. Oh, ooh, you said it now, Ron Allen Salon. You did it now. Listen, Alex Rodriguez, Europeans have to live in Europe. It's not their fault. They weren't born that way. Okay. They became that way by living in Europe for a long time. You can't help it. I'll see you tomorrow, Cameron. Don't forget to rock and roll. Well, you asked who wanted a typing session. You never gave me a typing session. I've never had a typing session from you. So you never typed me, right? And presumably if you wanted to do a typing session, that means you're going to ask me questions and I'll be able to answer them, right? It was... Delilah was a junior, I think, in high school. So that would make it 2014. I think 2014. And I spent a couple weeks in Taipei, probably in 2013, 2012, 2013 probably. No, I was setting up debate stuff. So in Shanghai, I was setting up the Shanghai branch of the company I worked for, Kudos College of Youth Leadership. We had several branches here in the greater Los Angeles area, and the Taipei thing was kind of like she was trying to get drum up enough interest to have a branch there as well, but that never ended up materializing. But the Shanghai one did. So I just went to Taipei for a couple of weeks. So I went to the Shanghai one for a few months. I mean, Queen's Gambit. That'd be fantastic if you could just explain what that means. How can you tell the difference between fake innie and real innie? Do you know it all? Do you have any thoughts about it? No? Is it visual cues? If it is visual cues, if it's uncontrollable visual cues on my part, then I must not be faking it, right? Do you really think does anybody actually think I go around trying to sustain an image like that of extrovert intuition? I mean, I guess you guys are just, trolls or whatever, but I don't know. You're going to have to troll more interestingly, I guess. Look, C.S. Joseph, Queen's Gambit. I understand that you think the problem is you have one arm. That is not the problem, okay? The problem is not that you have one arm. It wouldn't matter if you had two arms. The problem, you guys, is less fixable than having only one arm. You see, the problem is that you're a shitty drummer. Okay?
Well, no, that's not.
So, as a consequence, it doesn't matter how many arms you attach to your body. It won't change the reality that you, unfortunately, are just a shitty drummer. I mean, Queen's Gambit, I'm assuming that's not really you. No sane person takes you seriously if it is you. And that's for good reason for that. So, anyway, one-armed drummers, C.S. Joseph, Queen's Gambit, the reason you suck is not because you have one arm. Okay? Of course they're imposter trolls by us. I know that. This is not news to me. People always think like, oh, Eric's being fooled or something. It's not actually Queen's Gambit because I already hid Queen's Gambit a long time ago. So the other thing is, even if it were actually Queen's Gambit, it would only be interesting if you were actually interested in doing something like typing me or whatever. You separated from your ISFP after 20 years, like just recently, like today or something. God, this thing is death to bad relationships, huh? I want to hear more, vegan dancer. I want to hear more. Do you ever find yourself saying, I can't sing, I can't dance to that song. It's got meat in it. Does that happen a lot? Do you find yourself saying that? Vegan dancer, I want to offer you right now history's gentlest, kindest no doy. Because I know as well as anybody that when we're young and we make decisions, even things that seem extraordinarily no doy later on turn out at the time to not seem so obviously no doy. I mean, Rachel's been with at least one or a couple of INTJs, possibly. A couple of relationships with INTJs. I think INFJ and INTJ is not actually a terrible relationship inherently at all. But the problem is that ultimately what causes that relationship to fall apart is, you know, it's implicitly a relationship of I have a hammer and you literally have 0 nails, and the other person's like, well, I've got a screwdriver and you literally have 0 screws. You know, so the tool function is always hitting against the polar, so that's pretty tough. The shared dominance, nice, sure, that's easy, squeezy, but competing polars, hey. Oh, that's the power of silence, Vegan Dancer. Vegan Dancer has realized something that probably a lot of INFJs at some point in their life realize. Oh, wait. Silence does not necessarily equal depth. It may in me, but it doesn't always. If I say that my favorite color is red, is its truth value proven upon communication? If so, is it equally valid as an objective empirical fact? No. So if you say that your favorite color is red, I can say that you've made that claim and that only you have access to the evidence. So I can't disprove the claim. That doesn't, but also concurrently, you can't prove the claim because the only evidence that anybody can access is your claim, which means anytime you would make a claim about subjective evidence, it would be impossible, therefore, to challenge any such claim. And that's obviously not the case. So the thing is, what we do instead is this. We say, given that you've said that your favorite color is red, what are we going to do with that claim now? And here's the thing that people who want to argue a lot about debate stuff or arguments or truth or philosophy or whatever, they constantly need to be reminded. Language and communication occur purposefully and or are experienced as outcomes by people to some extent. You know, it's so let's say you say your favorite color is red. I say, all right, what are we arguing here? Why do we need to know? Why do we need to have the status of that statement established as either true or false? I'm willing to establish that statement, the status of true conditionally, temporarily for the sake of argument, to see where you're going with your line of reasoning. At which point, if I don't like your conclusion, I can revisit the fact that that is not a sound enough assumption to predicate your reasoning upon. But that's the thing is people think that truth or falseness exists outside of the utility of the language, and it doesn't. And the reason people think that is because language is engaged with the world at its most simple level when it's naming physical objects and making descriptions about physical objects. And so when we're talking about things that everybody can see and we make claims about it, nobody disputes them, and it would seem indisputably true that this is an orange lighter. But of course, most things that we actually have to talk about, things that might actually be in dispute, are not about those kind of objects or about those kind of attributes. And what kind of object it is and what kind of attributes it has or lack of attributes it has is going to determine how to conceptually engage it. For example, a time object like this video is an object that has an identity. It is unique and distinct. It is not, it may be an example of a set of things called Eric's videos, but it is unique and distinct in that it's, hi, Frank James. You're not Frank James. Frank James has come here before. The actual Frank James has come here before, but his Effie is too good to introduce himself like that. There's no way Frank James would come in and say, hey guys, it's your boy FJ, how you doing? Frank James, if he were actually here, this is how he would allow us to be aware that he were here. He'd engage me about something I said or something that somebody in the chat said, willfully directing the attention of his words away from himself. That's one of the things that it doesn't take typology to have some intuition, right? My dad would reject that as a good reason for knowing that's not Frank James, because after all, it's just an I. Legends Fall, if I were gonna object, you've already heard something about it. Right. Yeah, you paid fake Frank James. You need to commit to your fakery here. It's going to cost you some money. Frank James is rolling now. If he has a history of coming here and throwing me a super chat bone just to make my month or whatever. He's done that on one or two occasions in the past. So if you want to fake me out, it's going to cost you. And now that he's rolling, I'm assuming it's going to cost you more. You really gotta fake me. That way. Can anyone get typed by you? I type anybody if they pay me. I mean, you know, I don't work for free. So I mean, I do fairly often. Frank James, you are not Frank James. Did not really hurt your feelings. My ass, Cloud or whomever you are. I sometimes type people for free, but I try not to. I try to. You know, it's like I can be a little careless about practical matters, like making sure I get my due, you know, I guess. Crazy thing is, I charge $100 for an hour-long typing session in which mostly I'm actually assessing you, which is I'm asking questions, I'm listening to your answers and seeing how you respond to things. I'm linking your answers back to other people's equivalent answers on the same questions in ways that are not reliant on my interpretation. And I'm explaining those things where it need to be. But most of all, I'm earning my $100, right? If you're going to pay somebody to type you, shouldn't their attention be on you primarily? Because from what I can tell, typing sessions that, for example, you get from DSP, you send him a video and then he sends you a video explaining what you are. But so in other words, his attention is on what he thinks, not what he observes. Well, here's the other thing, Catherine. TI is TI. It's just TI. It is incredibly frustrating to me that we live in this world in which there's been this institutionalized forcing of reportedly academic kinds of skills that are really attentional manners. It's like, look, everybody knows the best birds fly the best. So there's something wrong with these penguins over here. Well, okay, but I mean, those birds that fly the best can't swim at all, and the penguins can swim badass. Yeah, but they're terrible birds, because everybody knows the best birds fly the best. I mean, that's not true, Catherine. Unfortunately, if IQ did just measure, well, if it just measured TI, then it would be a lot more useful. So, in other words, you could say, here's your verbal reasoning scores that include two things. They include TI and SI, depending on if you're processing it auditorily or if you're only having to process it visually. If you're just having to process it visually, it doesn't need to include SI. Instantly, while I think about it before I forget, I just want to say, moderators, may I say thank you for doing such a spectacularly great job tonight. You guys are fucking killing it. See? It's amazing what an effective job they're doing. Making all the right decisions. Yeah, so Catherine, if it were just TI, that'd be fine. It would be measuring something specific. If it were just any, a creativity test, you could isolate that easily enough. That would be good. That would be something specific. If it's just TE, great. That's something specific. But the problem with IQ tests is it's like, hey, I know, let's throw a bunch of mishmash together without even making any attempt to explain at all whether these mishmash things relate to each other mechanically, and call it intelligence. I guess I'm an ESTJ who came up with the intelligence test. Or I will not think about the framing. Like my dad had a realization tonight that was kind of funny, which was he said he must have. I can tell you. He didn't say it himself, but I can tell you what his thought process was here. He said as we were watching a cartoon, I guess those probably aren't really his kids, huh? I've talked to you guys about this before. And my dad thinks that the actors who play sports stars' family in commercials are their actual family. But he must have reasoned it out. Probably the sports stars don't want to put their kids to work as actors and have them face that much exposure. And so probably those aren't his real kids. That was probably my dad's reasoning there. Although I didn't actually ask him his reasoning and have him. Yeah. I mean, Alex Rodriguez, valid or invalid syllogism tests, there's only basically 4 questions. So, I mean, I give people those. It's just as straight. The problem is there's only really 4 questions. You go, okay, only Egyptians build pyramids. I built a pyramid, therefore I'm an Egyptian. A lot of people will go, that sounds like bullshit to me because, it's not really true that only Egyptian. So, or some people say that. Another one you go is all dogs like cheese. I like cheese, therefore I'm a dog. That's number 2. Then number 3 is no pigeons eat bananas. I don't eat bananas, therefore I'm a pigeon. If you're really slow, you'll say that's valid, And then the 4th one is from the consequence denying the antecedent. All Iraqis love falafel. I love falafel, therefore I'm Iraqi. Those are your 4 invalid forms, basically. I mean, you can parse it out to 300 and some odd different distinct variations of syllogisms if you include all the knots and all the variants. But really, actually, there's 4 questions. There's 4 questions on syllogism tests. Having made plenty of syllogism tests, then I took the one you gave me, which was if A or B, and that's not a syllogism test. That's a conditionality test. Those are different. The logic ones, the conditionality ones, you could just book one for tomorrow night if you want. Sure. The thing is, to a certain extent, it may have something to do with how hard you try, because Sometimes I check my email more frequently than others. So, like, I'm not sure I'm going to check my email. I'm not sure I'm going to check my email after the stream tonight. And you can call me Frank James. You're welcome to. I'll chat with you about it on the phone. Oh no! Oh my God, you guys! Looks like I've lost a subscriber. You know, when we were having such a great party, and then I saw, hey, look, there's a bus full of shit driving over to us. We all celebrated, right? And no, nobody misses shit bus, idiot. Nobody wants shit bus around. Losing Jeebus's respect? Jeebus has respect to afford people? I didn't know that. Seems contraindicative of every evidence I've seen heretofore. It's like, here's the thing about trolls in general. They're so totally anime villains. The anime villains, they push and they push and they push. And they go, I'm going to try to kill you, try to kill you, try to kill you, try to kill you. And then when the good guy who's trying to not kill them finally goes, you know what? Fuck you. And it's about to kill the bad guy. Then all the bad guys like, hey, killing's bad, right? And that's Jeebus in a nutshell. He's an anime villain. It's, as I've heard in many, many animes already, some variant on this message. If you're going to try to kill people, you better be prepared to die. You know? Can't shake the devil's hand and say you're only kidding. Which is a great quote, right? You can shake the devil's hand and say, I regret having shaken it. You can shake the devil's hand and say, that was a mistake. But you can't shake the devil's hand and say you're only kidding. Yeah, of course Janice is going to have a wrench. Does he want one? I don't think he wants one, does he? It doesn't occur to me that people want one, really. Why would you want a wrench? I appreciate my moderators because it's work. It's not like, it's not fun having to be an authority figure and bust people. And then you people always trying to hold you accountable and be like, Mrs. Mom was unfair to me because, yeah. And even I will periodically have to say something like, okay, you kind of rushed that one there, whomever, So it's a thankless job. I don't know why people would want it. I mean, thank you. It's not thankless. So thank you, moderators. So that person is not entirely thankless, since I did just thank you. But what I'm saying is, I don't get it. Like, it's not fun to be bossy or have to be responsible for things. Of course, that's why I always tell moderators here, it comes with powers but no responsibilities. Fuck. I have to go to the car. I have to get a coffee creamer out of the trunk of the car. I'll be right back. Ow. Ow. Put that in there. This in my coffee. Now we're cooking with creamer. Okay. I've never heard that joke before, surprisingly. Did you just make that up? You guys, we've been wrong the whole time. 9/11 was actually an outside job. Oh, okay. Well, go ahead and share with us the important words you have to share with us that you're somehow the ideas that you're being prevented from disseminating. Could it possibly be that one of the things we'll lose upon losing you is your periodic golden insights, such as shit bus? Okay, well, you're here. Try not to be. I mean, you're not up for any more scrutiny than anybody else. Right? Shit bus. Nobody bans you for being Jeebus. Here. You need to remember something, okay? Very important. Okay? It's very, very important. Yes, you have only one arm. But that's not why you're a shitty drummer. Okay? I mean, this is what I'm very clear about right now, Shitbus, is that you are determined to get your point across. You feel as though you actually feel as though some injustice was done, which I don't blame you. I don't blame you for objecting if some injustice was actually done. Okay? But I mean, pull back a bit on the map you're looking at here, okay? I don't exist in a vacuum, neither does this channel. You need to compare us against some other alternative that presumably is preferable. At least I'm having this conversation with you. I've been around a couple of live streams before, not a whole bunch of them, and I can tell you this place is a bastion of virtue regarding discursive legitimacy in comparison to every other place I've ever seen. So if you want to compare me against perfection, fine, criticize away. If you want to compare me against reality, you should get down on your knees and say, I'm not worthy. Oh, looks like you got caught. You got caught lying, shit bus. You got caught lying. No. Okay, so ship bus. This is a fun adventure for you. This is a good learning opportunity for you. What you can do is you can try to assess the situation with the other angle of assessment. Instead of trying to assess it from a self-defense perspective, defending your own position, try to assess it from the other people's perspective and see what happens. You know? Have you ever had someone crying during your typing sessions? No, I don't think so. Yeah, okay, I'll play your video, sure. You're not getting, don't copyright me. If I do. You know, I always worry somebody might, like, this is, if somebody's going to get me, this is how they get me. They convince me to look at one of their videos, and then they would show up on the live stream, and then they copyright me. That I am susceptible to that maneuver potentially. So I do worry a little bit about that because most of the ways in which I have to afford trust, I'm totally comfortable with because there's no actual harm that can be done to me. But if I have to afford trust in a way that can actually potentially cause me harm, then I get a little bit more like, well, I better be careful. I know you like to believe the world's a wonderful and warm place, but smoke sweet. And that's pretty good indeed. Because it means that he's not on speed. Oh, wait, it doesn't mean that. I don't care about that. That's the thing is, so far, I have not encountered a punishment kind of strike thing live streaming. I get that, you know. What you were saying there, where you got to split the monetization. I don't care about that. That's fine. If Eric, you fucking retard. So look, I'm so bored of work. When you hear me yelling at other people, I yell at myself in the same fashion. So I am fair about it. God, I'm so retarded. What would you do if you magically grew your hair out again? And my hair came back one day? I think I'd be worried that I mean, come on, Chipos. I think you're getting a little more worked up than I think you're getting, not more, as worked up as anybody, equally worked up. If there's working up going on, let's concur that the working up is mutual. And so we mutually worked each other up. It was awful, infuriating, but consensual. I'm just kidding. It wasn't awful or infuriating. Speaking of getting all worked up, I know people don't like to have me keep them updated on these things, but I feel the need to just let the truth out. Yes, I did have sexual intercourse earlier today, and yes, it was absolutely spectacular. I don't know if it's a beta quarter thing or whatever, but being with Rachel makes me realize just how much in previous relationships sex really was like going number 3. Like, all right, I got to get this gross white stuff out of me, so make with the leg spreading, you know? But, that woman is just so, Rachel's very, like, sexy, I guess is the word. I got to get this gross white stuff out of me, so make with the legs spreading is a good sentence. All right, you take care too, shit bus. Even though you're not going to be here in a second, even after you've left, I'm still going to transubstantiate this bong rip to you. From my lungs to your heart to my brain to your mind. And then together we will share it in our soul. Like the besties we will be from this point forward. Tomorrow morning, I start the live stream. I'm just going to be like, so Shibas and I were talking all night. And is it love? I don't know. Like I said, Shibas, being a mod's a thankless job. Especially around here where, because we try to be tolerant, we get subjected. And because I'm right in general, you know, being the fastest guy in the West means shit tons of people are always... You totally deserve that shit, Buzz. You totally deserve that. I totally agree with Legends Fall. Bah, suck it. I totally agree with you. Legends Fall is completely correct. I wouldn't normally say that a statement like blah ha 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 suck it could have a truth value. Not technically a statement, really. More of a command, but that is a true statement. Blah ha 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 suck it. Remember, shitbus, you live to do what Legends Fall just did. So suck it. NTP's being whiny about shit. Fuck that noise. That's not okay. You know, don't whine. Either drop bombs or be cool, you know? I agree. He tried to drop bombs. If you're gonna try to drop bombs, don't be surprised when your tribal wedding gets blown up by accident by the drone. You know, don't harbor bomb throwers from your neighborhood and you won't be subject to bombing probably. It was kek, 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 which is the Japanese villain laugh. Kek, 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 kek. All right, somebody explain it to me as one, like there's kek, 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 and there's ka, 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 ka. One of them is more self-satisfied and the other one is more menacing, I think, or something. I like the idea that fluster, men like gods should be a special verb for moderators. Like, you know how there's a sign up that says "Don't molest the wildlife." That's a special word we just use for wildlife to mean that. If we're talking about people, we don't mean give them food, for example, when we say molest. But if you give wildlife food and there's a signpost that says "Don't molest the wildlife," you are guilty of molesting the wildlife by giving them food. In other words, it just means don't interfere with them at all. Well, fluster is a good verb like that for mods. The sign, please don't fluster the mods. The management cannot be responsible for the behavior of flustered mods. Okay? There's going to be no Harambes around here. 0 Harambes. We're going to structure our justice system like the old days with the cops where they could kill anybody and say, well, he had a cell phone in his hand, and, oh, you're fine then. There's pictorial evidence of me trying to have it with a widow fawn. Yeah, R.I.P. I'm more in favor of what if you smoke too much, but you're already walking? Because I smoked too much maybe, but I started walking a long time ago. I think I was like 3, maybe 2. I don't know. How old are you when you start walking? I heard Lakers Gaming that if you drive an old Camaro too much, you start to look like smoke. Is that true as well? I hope so. It's the only truth that matters to me. The truth of your love. So yeah, I guess the point I'm trying to make here is that I see why people are into sexual intercourse a lot. I get it. It is a lot of fun. But I've always found that people who like can't keep it in their pants or something, I've always had difficulty understanding how you could be like tempted in that area, because it didn't seem like it was worth anything, because it's like you just have sex and it's done, and then you know. No, I had fine sex. It was fine, you know. It's just I never quite understood the purpose of it. So, like, the point is this: even today, or whenever, today was really just spectacularly good. But at the same time, it's like, what do you do with that reality? Nothing to do with that reality. It's just you're very satisfied and you sleep really well or something. There's no. It doesn't. It's about the connection. Oh, right. Yeah. You mean the emotional connection? Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. I do love my Rachel a lot. I think that probably is why, probably has something to do with why I enjoy intercoursing at her so much. But it's just, I always figured it's like this. No matter how much you want to have the sexual intercourses with your partner, I mean, what's the maximum amount of time per day you could devote to that? An hour? And do you really want to devote an hour a day to that? I was just sort of basically thinking it's more like going to the bathroom, in the sense that when you're done, you've not accomplished anything, but you feel better. Frank James is an INFJ. Yes. When a man and a woman are very much in love, then the man may attempt to make sexual intercourse at the woman. If she is interested in being the recipient of said sexual intercourses, it's not cold. I'm not cold. I'm warm. I do love Rachel a lot. I don't think that that's relevant to anything, right? It's like, Well, it's not an argument. It doesn't work as an argument for anything. It doesn't prove anything. It doesn't establish anything. It doesn't solve any problem permanently. You know, I'll be horny again tomorrow, probably. You know, or the next day anyway. So it doesn't make any logical sense. But I get it. I get it better. I get it increasingly well, I guess, now that I'm with Rachel. You gotta remember, my second wife was very much a marriage of I was attaining a mother for Delilah, my small daughter. That was my purpose. That was what I was doing. And I mean, the problem is, C.S. Joseph, after being with me, I don't think she'd be able to tell when you're in. You know? Like that. I'm not a fan of those kind of jokes, but I don't pump and dump. Me? What does that mean? No. Maybe in my second marriage a little bit, but certainly not with Rachel. Rachel and I are not in any hurry, and often we don't complete the important purpose of the whole endeavor. And I need a break. I need an intermission. I need a halftime usually. You know, a lot of times I don't need a halftime because I get winded. I'm not gonna lie, I get a little winded, even if I'm just, you know, not flailing around a whole bunch or whatever. Right? It does take a lot of exercise to get me a little winded. So, someone once described the vag as an ashtray. That's not where your cigarette ashes go. Coitus reservatus. I mean, gentlemen don't kiss and tell. Well, I mean, I'm not. That's for people who want to preserve their capacity to fuck around. Do you like Chris Gaming and why? A vagina is best referred to as the velvety folds of womanhood. Oh, is that what that means? I don't do it on purpose. Well, sometimes I do, but like I said, I get winded. I get tired, so I can't stop for a while. I gotta catch my breath. We're talking about the platonic vagina, the platonic form of vagina. The platonic form of vagina is the enveloping velvety folds of womanhood. So tell me, like Chris Gaming, why do people hate you? That makes me sad to hear you say that. I don't want people to hate you. Why would they hate you? Is it because you constantly take shits on their face? Hey, Johnny, want to come over? No. Why not? Dude, last time I went over to your house, you shat on my face. I thought you liked that. I thought you loved fresh brewed shit. Not on my face. Hate is nothing but bait. Bait for what? More hate? Is it a vicious circle of bait and hate? Well, here's the thing. If Gwyneth Paltrow can make a vagina scented candle, then surely I can make a Host Eric's penis scented candle that smells like my penis. Which naturally provokes the question, well, Eric, what does your penis smell like? And the answer is freshly baked chocolate chip cookies. That's what my penis smells like. It is possible, like Risk Gaming, that people hate you because they're envious. That does happen sometimes. But generally speaking, I don't know why you drinking that. Who are you talking to? I don't own any mods. I mean, I also, I'm somebody who is very much interested in this question of what causes people to, like, specifically to hate me, you know? Because I definitely have people who are, you would call haters, people who seem to just be determined to shit on me in any, whatever it is. It's like, the people for whom you cannot find any common ground because they're determined not to find any common ground with you, you know? If I typically try to engage with everybody, human to human, just like I would in regular life. But the internet empowers people who don't want to treat you like a human to do so if they want, you know, and that's fine. I'm not trying to say they shouldn't have that capacity. I'm just saying, you know, there are David Brin, the futurist and science fiction writer David Brin talks about things called accountability arenas and how civilization grows from the robustness and preservation of these accountability arenas. One of the accountability arenas is science, and it's probably the most robust of the accountability arenas in general, which is to say, like it is true that the first paper that Chinese woman put out about how COVID was man-made, that Fox aired and then retracted. When I looked at the actual paper, it's absolutely the case that there is no way any peer-reviewed journal would ever publish that garbage. So in that sense, science is working, right? Science is working to actually be a gatekeeper when you're talking about real science. Now, one of the worst things about science is the way that it both allows and almost encourages people to avoid actual thinking and defer to science, you know? So, and it also encourages people to mistake the theatrics of science for actual science. Like that's what Dave Superpowers has done, right? And then I would say Boba Fett, that's another sort of false dichotomy, pseudoscience and exact science. There's a process, this is a disinterested process of drawing conclusions. You can attain that disinterested process of drawing conclusions without having to pay attention to the frame by science. That's what makes science so powerful, is that it allows non-meta analysts to do real work. It allows non-NTPs to do real work. So even if you're not an NTP, you can still actually understand things well with science. Oh. It sounds like you were subjected to some ontological assault by some liars, because you can't actually be addicted to cannabis. The cool thing is Likers Gaming is I've already saved somebody like you and proved myself 100% correct about this. Rachel was subject to that same lie, and they tried to blame her mental illness on cannabis addiction, and their treatment protocol for that caused her to retain the mental illness for almost a full decade until a sane person, namely me, said, this is all bullshit what they're saying, and fixed the problem. They had allowed it to fester for 10 years. And how did I fix it? While concurrently Rachel smoking more weed than she ever has in her life, because I was right. That's how, and they were wrong. And whoever told you about cannabis addiction was lying to you. They're evil and were lying to you. So don't believe it. You know, I don't want you subjected to the same kind of evil that Rachel was subjected to, especially now that I've successfully proved my point. Completely 100% indisputably proved it. Actually, I was born mostly bald. I was, you know, apparently I still have more hair than I originally did. Okay, so who's changed their behavior with you? What does it mean psychosis? Okay. Well, I mean, the first thing you need to do, if you generally are having psychotic episodes, you mean actual psychosis, is you need to get your medication straightened out. So, like one way that people express sickness basically is to take ownership of other people's ontology. So, somebody telling Likers Gaming that he has cannabis addiction, that's somebody trying to take ownership of his ontology. And people are susceptible to believing some of those kind of lies, and it can be really dangerous. Leaf Shermer's thing here. The guy moved out because his girlfriend was smoking weed all day too much. Of course, that's him trying to take ownership of her ontology. How can her behavior of her smoking weed be a problem for him? Right? So it's about being, I guess, honest with ourselves about the limit of the limits of what we can own, right? We can own our own behavior. We can own our own perspective on our own subjective shit. We can own other people's objective behavior if it's subjective in its orientation when it applies to universals, because then they're trying to force their stupid shit on everybody. But it would be fine for a guy to move out because his girlfriend kept trying to pressure him into smoking weed all day. That would make sense, right? But the guy who moved out, he's lying when he says that was his reason, because that would pretend as though he owned her, which he doesn't, obviously. That's one of the arguments I have with people periodically. You know, a lot of people internalize a lot of lies about marijuana, and I get it because I was raised in the most lie heavy time of all, the 80s, when they were really fucking lying about drugs, just lying as hard as they possibly could. Oh well, so then the story he should have said is a guy I know moved out from living with his girlfriend because she had lied to him about who she was and how she was. That's the correct explanation, right? Lee Trimmer? You see what I'm saying? So you misrepresented it as a weed smoking problem. It was an honesty problem, wasn't it? She was a liar. That's a good reason to move out. Yeah, I've done mushrooms. I like mushrooms, but I probably won't do them again because Rachel doesn't like being excluded from things. I'm not really super comfortable encouraging her to do mushrooms. Now, analysts pay attention to the frame, but it's like, okay, there's a difference between an analyst and an executive. Let me pull this ball and think of a good example. All right, so one way to put it is like this. The analysts are making decisions about the frame and then throwing away the map when it comes to actually engaging with the territory. In some sense, it's a pretty sensible approach. So in other words, an ISTP, who's an analyst, will make a decision about a single path that they want to engage in and what the frame of reference is for that. And then they will be executing the particular based on particular stuff without looking back at the frame much. It stays put. It doesn't require a lot of tending to, but it's nevertheless predominant. In contrast, the ESTP will we'll know, look, at the end of the day, all of this framing shit, it doesn't matter. Okay, so here's the difference between an analyst and an executive. In the show Gate, Gate, not Steins Gate. It's an anime called Gate, G period, A period, T period, E period. In that show, okay, a lot of decisions are made from ISTP style approaches, which is to say, they go, you can't go over there. That would violate the treaty. And then the guy goes, but we have an exemption for instances where we're looking for new mineral deposits, evidence of them, so that we can enter into negotiations with those countries. And the ISTP leader goes, well, you better make it look convincing, and stamps it, right? That's it's an IST. I mean, the ESTP leader says, well, you better make it look convincing. The ISTP guy is the main character who comes up with this plan, right? So in other words, he understands the frame. He's not challenging the frame. He's exploiting weaknesses in others' frame control to get what he wants without violating the frame. The ESTP doesn't care about the frame. He only cares about the processes. So you better make it look convincing. The ISTP, he says, I've got a good enough reason. This passes muster. The ESTP says, you better make it look convincing. That's the difference between the analyst and the executive. Meta-analysis is not really a thing. When I say the meta-analysts, I'm not saying we're engaging in a kind of thinking you're incapable of engaging in. I'm saying we want both halves of the equation to be the map. ISTPs want to know the map, and then they execute on the territory, right? Okay, I know the rules. I found out a loophole. We can go there and do what we want to do without violating the treaty if I give this reason. The ESTPs, they go there and then they figure out, okay, how am I going to justify this? Or you might say, okay, I get your reason. So you've given me a way that I can justify this to the higher ups, but you better make it convincing because it's, I don't trust the frame, right? I don't trust the fact that it's technically technically in line with the rules. I know that I use technically in line with the rules as ways of getting away with bullshit myself. So I don't trust those technicalities in the same way that the ISP does, right? The ENTP both trusts those technicalities and constantly uses them too. So it's not like you can't do meta-analysis. There's no such thing exactly as meta-analysis. There's analysis, but meta-analysts are people who like to analyze analysis. That's what makes them meta-analysts. Analysts, they like to analyze actual things, which makes them much more sensible thing to be, right? Executives, they like to use actual analysis to accomplish real things. Much more sensible. Executors, they say, let's just bypass the analysis. I can see what needs to be done right in front of me. Things aren't that complicated. You're making this way more complicated than you need to. Is the executor's strongest sentence. So just because I start the thing with my own group, because I just always do that, doesn't mean I think we're in first place or something. You know? Well, okay, so let me first talk about, so I prevent a possible confusion here. In the peer-reviewed science community, a meta-analysis is a study that looks at the results of a bunch of other studies, okay? And says, I'm going to, instead of doing another study to see if there's a link between caffeine and meow, I'm going to study all of the other studies that have drawn conclusions about this and draw a conclusion from that. So that's what is known as a meta-analysis in the scientific peer-reviewed journal world, okay? So the word does have a meaning and it does have a usage, but the way that that you're using it as a process, I don't think is actually right. The process is simply analysis, and whether or not it's meta depends on your framings. You know, it's like, why is physics not meta? Physics isn't meta because it doesn't depend on the framings. It has one constant that's unmoving, namely the physical world. Metaphysics is about how we do physics of the physical world. So it's like physics is the logic of the physical world. We can check to see if our logic is right against empirics from the physical world. And so it doesn't need any meta on it. Metaphysics is we're checking to see if the processes by which we attain the logic of the physical world are themselves legitimate. And so as a consequence, we say the matter about whether your empirical outcome here has a margin of error large enough to small enough to justify your conclusions or something is missing the point, because I'm still trying to resolve this rule up here, which if I resolve it against you will cascade down and render everything you're doing irrelevant. That's how I'm thinking. That's how I believe it to be. You know, they of course are not impacted by my words in that fashion. In other words, just because what I'm saying logically or argumentationally cascades down and should invalidate for them if they were using my mapping approach, their own approach, doesn't mean their behavior is going to change at all. You know? So don't think meta-analysis is better. It's just less, it's less subject to being wrong, and also less likely to be usefully right. Because, you know, the fact is, I've already made analyses that have invalidated everything that anybody who's not predicating a cognitive function model on certain observations, it's invalidated what they're doing because they can't answer the first question in the door that I have for them, right? How many fields upon which do we attend? What? They don't even know what I mean. They have no idea what I mean. They're not prepared to even have a conversation about how to model this thing because they don't understand the words we use to talk about modeling. No, those are my terms. What it is this. I'm pointing out that I'm somebody who's got two communicative functions in the 1-2. Extroverted intuition is about creating words. Introverted thinking is about checking for them being word valid, argumentationally valid, logic valid, right? Rachel also has two communication functions first. She's got the universal knowledge function, NI, which is to say she intuits based on the identity of things in the world and the patterns that such identities suggest, rather than on the patterns from her own experiences. And she's got extroverted feeling, which is a communicative function in the sense that it's very much about how interplay between people impacts the perceptions of those people of each other. So between the two of us, we have all four communication functions in our first two slots. The other kinds of functions are the experiential functions. That's SE, TE, FI, SI. So some people have two communication functions first. 1-2. There's four of those. ENTP, INTP, ENFJ, INFJ. I call those the meta-analysts because we're about the map in terms of frame, and we're about the map in terms of territory. I call the ones that have the communication function first and then the experiential function analysts, because they care about the map when it comes to the frame, but when they're actually on the ground in the territory, they're expecting to deal with it experientially as it is, not by following some map. I call the ones who have the experiential function first and the communication function second executives because they are there to use maps to execute a particular mission of some sort, right? They're not there to question why they're on that mission, how they got on that mission or whatever, but they're very good at using maps in the field. So it's strategy tactics kind of. Now, it's not that simple, and it's reductive to say that because that's, again, a framing issue, but the difference is like I said about the gate thing. The ISTP comes up with the loophole that justifies them doing what they want to do, and the EXP says, "Yeah, but make it convincing. You better sell the actuality of it, not just rely on claiming the legitimate loophole." Because I know people don't necessarily go by what's logically right. In other words, they don't trust the frame ESPs. People are actually people, not machines that will listen to your words and be impacted accordingly. I'm talking about maps as in things you fold out that have roads on them and stuff. I'm not using some special term here. Like, it's not an anagram for me, or it's not a, what do you call that when it doesn't stand for anything? I'm actually talking about maps, actual maps, like physical maps of the world, like an atlas or something. I'm not trying to coin a term or anything. That's not an abbreviation. Maps. I'm trying to keep things as simple as possible. Maps and territory. So, for example, before we had phones that told us where to go, if I wanted to know how to get to I would actually look at a map and say, here's the road, here's the map. Okay? So, meta-analysts are people who, when they unfold the map, it's not to go anywhere, it's to judge the map. These people weren't very good map makers. Look at these. It's this, they say this shading goes with this topography, but over here, it clearly is not the same shading rules applied because this is a lower elevation, but it's got the same shading. They say it's topographical shading. That's a meta-analyst. When you think I'm putting meta-analysts above everybody, remember, we're the people who unfold maps so that we can critique the ability of the map makers. Not to get anywhere in our car or know where we're going, right? That's not a good thing. It's not something to be proud of. I'm not really even talking exactly to you anymore. I'm sorry. I know I do this thing where I'm carrying on a little monologue, soliloquy, rant thing. And no, I'm talking about mapping functions and territory functions. Like the ability to make maps in life and the ability to look at those maps and see if they match territories. The ability to use those maps to move through territories. It's not really a metaphor. It is describing a real relationship that exists. Something might in fact provide you information about how to traverse another thing. Yeah, executives just say, give me the gun and let me work. It's like about sex in my previous relationships, I was kind of executor-ish. Look, I got to get this gross white stuff out of me, so make with the leg spreading. Not caring about the frames, not caring about the functions. just like, look, I'm selfish on this level and this level. Yeah, get a dead reckoning to realize the self-esteem of butt fuckery that we call life. Fellow alien Eric, you have returned from Earth. Please issue your report. Yes, Zorgon. I find it an depressing sea of endless buttfuckery. A depressing sea of endless buttfuckery. That would be like a good review to have an exclamation point after, like a movie or something. It's weird how much satisfaction I've gotten out of clipping that little thing from Mr. Show with the one-armed drummer thing. I don't think I've ever encountered anything that has made me feel more understood than that little skit. And it made me feel like maybe I can make other people understand as well. Because it's pretty clear to anybody, I don't care how stubbornly TE or whatever you want to be, it's pretty clear to anybody watching that skit, okay, one guy is right, and everybody else around him is insane. You know, it's like, well, of course, the only difference between David Cross and me is David Cross is surrounded by people who are all like that. I'm surrounded by people who are half of whom are like that, or a quarter of whom are like that. Way more of that than any normal person would ever encounter. But I also have way more smart people around me than any normal person would ever encounter. So it's a weird kind of thing. It's like, we come here to chat about maps. Analysts come in and say, this map's useless. This is a map that doesn't take into account roads, blah, blah, blah. It tells us how to get there, but there's no vehicle that's going to travel successfully over both highway, dirt, sand, swamp, sea, air. And so this route is terrible. Well, we're not talking about the route. We're talking about the map. Routes are dumb, says the meta-analyst, right? Then the executives come in there and go, all right. Let's see here. Okay, so what can you give me? Well, over there's some turtles because there's a swampy area. Great. Let's go to the swamp. Let's do some shit in the swamp. Then the executors go, looks like I'm digging muck in the swamp today. Guess that's what I'm doing. No, Lee Trimmer, it's not a metaphor to say that you can map something. For example, if you've ever seen in the doctor's office one of those human bodies where you can take off the outside and it shows what the organs are inside that they look like and stuff, that is a map. It is mapping the placement of the organs in the human body. When I write out for you a workout plan, that is a map, a way that I'm telling you, if you take this route, you will get from current place A to destination B. So you could say I'm meaning mapping in the verb sense, not the noun sense, I guess. But I mean, that definitely sounds like I don't know what to make of that. I don't know. It's like if you actually think that mapping isn't a real concept, it's just a metaphor for something, I don't know what to say to that. You've brought me to a complete halt here. I don't know. This is, if you actually think that, then I don't know what to say. Well, I mean, this is perception, and one of the things that we talk about in general. So, what's going on in this circumstance? People are mostly interested in this question. They're mostly interested in the question of why is leaf trimmer meowing, or why is Eric meowing, or whatever, right? Right. But what Christopherson says is the salient point here, which is exactly where I was going with that. People are obsessed with everyone's motivations. Is this guy trolling, or does he really believe this? Is this guy? I mean, the thing is, why are we concerning ourselves so much with the agential parts of the individual that are subjective anyway? We can't confirm or reject any subjective claims they might make. So who the fuck cares what their motivation is? We can judge their behavior. The problem is an objective intuition-based judgment of their behavior often includes a sort of diagnosing the people. You're just jealous, or you just want to be right, or you're motivated by having a chip on your shoulder, or blah, 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 blah. And here's the frustrating thing in life. There are shit tons of times when NI is right. For me too. And it also doesn't work as an argument in and of itself. You've got to have something more than an NI if you want to justify your own resultant meow, whether it's resultant claims, resultant decision, resultant behavior, whatever. Yeah, and that's where Legends Fall, my thinking is starting to change a bit. It's funny, I always saw it in kids, the difference in ability level. And before I really understood about cognitive functions, I just thought, well, there's something wrong with a fairly large number of kids, that. But now I understand it instead as probably what it is. There is simply, using my map approach is never going to get through to somebody who's firm in their conclusion, position, behavior, whatever, and doesn't value a map approach absolutely, and or has no experience consistently with using a map approach as a tool function. The things I'm saying don't matter to them, and they never are going to. It won't change their mind. That's not where their mind is. That's not how they make up their minds. That's not how they operate. That's not how they expect others to. That's the other thing, is we default to expecting everybody else to be like us, ourselves. I mean, when I think back at a lot of my earlier wrongnesses in life, they seem mostly to stem from the fact that I assumed everybody was like me. So I remember being very confused when I really make an effort to let somebody else have turn being the center, make sure everybody has turn being the center of attention, and just not getting that there are people who genuinely don't want to be the center of attention, that they are called introverts. They're different than you, Eric, that's the thing that happens, is everybody assumes that you go into the world, you have direct knowledge of your own experience, and that's it. Now, if you're into an INFJ or say super intuitive about people or whatever, you start to distrust your own experience at an early age, I guess. But you still can only intuit about that which the world presents to you. You know, in other words, you only intuit about that. You can only intuit about that which you observe. So it's the capacity to meow or meow or meow depends somewhat on the environment. We shouldn't think, however, that means you can teach anybody anything. What's probably the most Holocausty statement to enter the public consciousness in the last 30 years? No child left behind. What an ontological neutron bomb that fucking sentence is. Right? Now, all of a sudden, instead of the proper frame of reference in which school is not a single linear progression through a set of established knowledge that one must march until one reaches the finish line of now I'm okay. If I'm not succeeding at writing well, maybe it's because I'm not meant to be a writer. Maybe it's because you're forcing me to practice something I'm shitty at and no good at and don't want to do. Maybe if I'm not good at math, then you shouldn't be forcing me to learn it beyond a certain point, at least, right? That we should allow people to grow up to be themselves rather than spend most of their time, forcing them to try to be somebody else, which is what school is. Children don't have any ownership of their own education. They're not permitted to find a place in the world where they can ask some expert in something that they genuinely find super cool and interesting to help them. In general, in the West, we don't have an adequate respect for actual teachers. I don't respect teachers, classroom teachers, very much at all in general, for good reason. But that's because there's not the proper attitude towards the teacher-student relationship. It should be the teacher understands his willingness to share the information and to teach he has a limited amount of time to do that, and he's spent a shit ton of time mastering the thing, so it has a great deal of value. He doesn't want to waste it talking to people who aren't serious students. So, like in Japanese cartoons, you see before the old wizard ninja guy agrees to train the young up and comer. The young up and comer has to show a great deal of resolve and prove how much he really wants to learn, how much he's willing to do to show he's serious. Because that's a good thing. That's how it should be. Now, I'm not saying the burden like that should be on the student, actually, but what I'm saying is the educational process should be driven by the student actually wanting and needing to learn something for some reason, not some group of adults concluding that every student needs and wants to learn something for some reason. I guess Rachel went to bed. Oh, it's 11 already. I didn't know it was so late. I had such an inadequate nap today. It's a bold choice. He's a curve surfer. It's bold. That may not sound cool now. Just wait a year. That's 2022's black. That's the new black. 2022. The new little black dress. Hi, I wonder, can you tell me what time it is? 1340, dickhead. Oh my God. That guy was so cool. That's me acting out the new paradigm that Lightning Fall predicts, unknowingly predicted. You just thought you were commenting about something around here, but really, that's tomorrow's cool. To be obnoxiously wrong. God, I can't believe this traffic is terrible. What are you talking about? We're driving freely down the road. Clear as day. You wouldn't know traffic would bit you in the ass, idiot. I'm in a dead stop. What are you talking about? You're going 100 miles an hour, moron. The year obnoxiously wrong became super cool amongst young people. I thought last year, wasn't kindness the new cool? What are you talking about? That wasn't last year. Oh, funny. Funny stuff. I was actually laughing earlier, I think when I was in bed, maybe, falling asleep, laughing about what Hambone said about three-way ketchup. He's like, for saucing, dipping, and ketchuping. Which of the following things is most risen? Dinner rolls, the sun, pea boner, what else is risen? The flag? Which is most risen? Dinner rolls. We could put in a but that wasn't actually I thank you. I will do a which is most risen poll. But the poll I was thinking about earlier was if you can't beat them, ... and then the choices be all words that rhyme with join. Like coin them, line them, conjoin them, groin them. This is better than a nose scarf. You know how a couple years ago It was really cool to make those big holes in your ear. This is the equivalent new trend. See, as I continue to apply this, gradually I'll pull my nose through here, and it'll cause my nose to have this constricted, like, false waist part and this big bulbous part out here, which the people of my tribe find very attractive. And, you know, I'm always trying to win tribe's sexiest man. This is not a condom, no. This is a nose beautifier. This is a tribal nose beautifier. Okay. It used by the Durangi people in sub-Saharan South America. This tribal nose beautifier may seem strange to Western observers, but the Durangi people swear by it. And then they have this, you know, and translator says, "Oh yes, the nose beautifier will make the nose of any man or woman look extremely bulbous and beautiful. Can't you see how beautiful my nose is?" Your pair of recently trapped wild badgers, unfortunately, is going to escape. But you get to pick where. The public library. A Dodger game. At grandma's house during Thanksgiving dinner. The point is, I think of lots of possible polls. Most of them don't make it up there, but I have lots of notions that seem funny to me during the course of the day. The weird thing is, I don't feel like I will ever put a poll up unless I can get 5 options. Interestingly, I see Frank James often puts up polls with just 2 options. He puts up terrible polls. I don't know why people would even bother voting on them. Ah, shit. I already did this once. I wish I hadn't done that. There. Okay, got it. This is a ring that I was making out of hawthorn wood. What are bad? Tell me lies, tell me sweet little lies. Tell me lies. Yeah, I got it stuck on my finger. You know what was interesting is, I don't know if I maybe missed something or whatever, but after I slammed that fake C.S. Joseph with my particularly great slam, I haven't heard a single peep out of him. Or he just sort of disappeared all of a sudden. I wonder if my slammed him enough to make him do that. Okay, here's the key to pulling off the archetype of the pedant. Pretend these are regular glasses instead of sunglasses, okay? Like this. Actually, let's do it. If so, then I feel bad, and like I shouldn't be allowed to win that way. And I shouldn't have made that argument or something. I shouldn't have said that, but I don't know. It's just map talk again. Just here in the map room talking about our mapping techniques, our jobs as cartographers, and my deep and abiding shame at possibly having the wrong color on the legend. Oh, Jesus. Shortly, I'm going to have to go. Bro. I believe in you and everything you do, except any of the things that you do that are wrong. I've got a map that'll take me from here down to there. So open your legs and sit down in that chair, 'cause baby, I found the map to your puss. The old jazz standard, map to your puss. Darling, you can squeeze me. Darling, you can leave me. Darling, it'll be just fine. But don't deny me naps, and don't deny me craps, because I need the map to your heart. That'd be like a 30s version of that song, right? Traveling back in time through the jazz styles. Before that, you get back to Lord, Lord, take me down, Lord, Lord, find me puss, Lord, Lord, map puss, Lord, Lord. Let's see. Going back a little further in the history of jazz, you get that. Oh, the Lord, 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 Lord. Some people have accused you, Eric, of writing a racist book. What do you say about that? What's racist about my book? Well, it's titled How to Write Song Lyrics for a Negro Spiritual. And? Well, you're not a Negro. At the moment, that's true, but I'm also not spiritual right now. Does that invalidate me from talking about Negro spirituals? Okay, let's move on. So, people said this book is racist because you keep saying that to write a Negro spiritual, you only need to include the words loud and loud, loud and loud. Big bale of cotton, loud and loud. Well, that's mostly what the lyrics are. That's why I put it in my book, How to Write a Negro Spiritual. how to write and perform a real Negro spiritual like an actual pre-Civil War Southerner. Oh, no, 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 sing now, no, 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 no. It's like, is that a song? What is that guy doing? Why is he acting like that? Sure, you can pronounce words a little bit more clearly than that. Oh, Lord, piggy bell cotton. Oh, Lord, piggy bell hay. Oh, Lord, piggy bell cotton. Oh, Lord, piggy bell hay. Lordy, Lordy, Lord, Lordy, Lord, 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 piggy hay. Lord, 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 piggy bell cotton, piggy hay. Thank you, thank you. That was Pick a Bale of Cotton, Pick a Bale of Hay. From the collection Immortal Family Favorites and Negro Spirituals. with all of your classic favorite Negro spirituals, including Swing Low Sweet Chariot and order today. Order today for your album with all of your favorite, most beloved Negro spiritual hits, such as Swing Low Sweet Chariot. That's making me laugh. Look, don't call those slave songs. They don't belong to the violence perpetrated against those people. Those songs are called Negro spirituals. They're a genre. It's like it used to be that you have your genres. People who write books, maybe they write mysteries, maybe they write science fiction, maybe they write romance. Songs are the same way. People write rock songs, people write Negro spirituals, people write jazz songs, But the Negro spiritual has really fallen by the wayside in terms of popularity of a form. So I think I'd like to bring it back with a little bit of contemporary updates and really just, what's the word? Win, I guess. Win the truth battle. Hey, look, Eric's winning the truth battle. Then why is everybody saying he's losing? Because they all have one arm. What's beautiful about it? I mean, authenticity is appealing, right? But remember that the authenticity that we find appealing about Negro spirituals is an authenticity that emerges from their systematic oppression and the refusal of the people oppressing them to allow them to be educated at all. So that's why it sounds so crazy, It's like if you're a part of a population that's been systematically oppressed and denied any kind of education or capacity to use language well, then you're going to write songs like that. I'm not saying there's some quality implicit to our race or something, right? I'm saying it's implicit to any people who are subject to oppressive violence and also denied access to ideation and language. Well, I mean, I also love the fact that they are among our musical archetypes. Our archetypes are great because they allow you to communicate in ways that if you get exactly the right combination with exactly the right all of a sudden you go from a big hunk of metal to a working combustion engine that drives, right? So archetypes are beautiful because they allow us to teach lessons that can't be taught any other way. For example, this one. Yep. I am that clever. I am that clever. I am that motherfucking clever. And people hate it when I say that. I have no interest in fighting that particular battle. So in other words, it is absolutely the case that everyone's skittishness about the N word, quote unquote, is a worthwhile cause to fight. But because of its particularist baggage, it's better to fight it in other ways. I mean, obviously, for example, one would be best served to totally naturally, but relatively frequently, use the word niggardly, which the etymology of which is totally unrelated. Okay. That would be a good desensitization process for people in general, because people do need to be desensitized. For people who don't parse language for its meaning, they have emotional associations with language instead. So, you've got to do a certain amount of, you got to take those teachable moments. It's like, why do I do things like, see, that would be encouraging your wrongness. Listen to what I'm saying about deafness, being deft, okay? You can't play with this fire. It's too dangerous for you. Trust me. I'm playing with the fire because I'm actually trying to put it out. You think it looks like fun. So don't conflate anybody else's anything with my extraordinarily sophisticated and correct and successful approach towards race. Don't try to imitate me unless you're an ENTP, for sure. Like Sky Gear, he can pull this off, but I don't trust many other people to do it. It requires too much intuition to do it right and not make any mistakes. You can't make any. You got to do it exactly right. Because otherwise, you cease being the only one true solution, which I always strive to be, and start becoming part of the problem. We don't want that to happen. Yeah, pretentious. Exactly. What you said is not pretentious. You used this word wrong the other day, too. You do not know what that word means. I'm being arrogant, boastful, conceited. A lot of things I am being right now. One of them is not pretentious. I've already corrected you once. Update your wrongness, please. Of course, I'm not really being arrogant, conceited, or any of those things. I'm being a little bit fighty about a frustrating reality that I'm coming to accept. And I'm coming to accept that, hilarious though it is in that scene, that is very much how the world is for me. I really am David Cross trying to explain to this person that just because he's a shitty drummer and has one arm doesn't mean he's a shitty drummer because he has one arm. I spent my whole life having that conversation, trying to explain to people things that are so and that are true, I mean, well, she's free to deem as she wishes. Did I ever say I'd like to control Kyra's deeming in some fashion? I'm a full supporter of everyone's right to deem as they see fit. Unless you didn't mean deem. Right. It's just like to dub. She's dubbed me that. Well, I hereby dub her wrong. Now let's both listen to some dubstep. Well, I'm going to basically have to agree with you there, Trimmer. Even though I'm in the mood to disagree with you right now, I saw a headline the other day in the LA Times that blew my fucking mind. It said, Mia challenges racist freeway extension project delays or something like that. Okay. Which, how can a freeway project be racist? The thing is, of course, what they really mean is we're mad that the rich people in South Pasadena successfully prevented the state/county from connecting the 710 freeway to the 210 freeway through South Pasadena 20, 30 years ago. Okay. So let's refresh here what they actually mean. Okay. I mean, we are angry because rich, empowered South Pasadena prevented the general good of completing the 710 freeway from happening because they didn't want the freeway to be pushed through their neighborhood and knock down their houses and make them have to live next to a freeway, another freeway, or something. I don't know why they didn't want to do it. They didn't want to do it, whatever. And it's true that South Pasadena has a bunch of rich people who use their resources and know how to interfere with the transportation project to prevent it from ever coming to fruition. But there is absolutely nothing remotely racist about that. Somebody might point out, well, they just pushed that 710 right through those minority communities. Well, it's the Long Beach Freeway going up from Long Beach straight through from Long Beach. It's like it's between the 710 and the 605. I mean, between the 110 and the 605. So it used to be a long time ago, there was a 605 freeway, which was the original Long Beach Freeway. It was how you got down to Long Beach. And then there was the 110, which is how you got down to San Pedro. They go down like this way, okay? But there was a huge between them without any in the middle, right? So then they built the 710. Okay, great. Now there's one in the middle between 605 and the 110. The 605 goes up here to the 210. The 110 stops at Pasadena, and you have to go on surface streets to get to the 210, or you got to go 110 to the 5 north to the 2 north to the 134 to the 210. So, yeah, it's a pain in the ass, but who cares? It's not that big of a deal. And that, if you're going to accuse that of being something, what is the actual word that you would use that would be at least somewhat kind of linking to meaningful? It would be classist, right? It wouldn't be racist. Why? It's like we do have we do genuinely have a class problem in America right now, because we have a class of people who are aristocrats, the aristocracy, and they get to wear their masks on their chin. And then we have regular people who get yelled at if they wear their masks on their chin. So we do actually have an aristocracy right now. If you're considered important enough, you're not subject to COVID restrictions. And if you're not considered important enough, then you are. And it just sort of arbitrary, can just like, as it occurs naturally, there's no rhyme or reason to it in particular. It's... How about the Syrian guy who got labeled a white... I don't know anything about that. No, I haven't heard about any massage parlor situation. I don't want to hear about it. What I want to know is this. Whatever happened to blaming the classes? Whatever happened to blaming fat asses? Whatever happened to things that are nascent? I guess now they've all just become racists. It used to be you'd be wrong for A or B, perhaps religion or ideology. Now it seems you're only wrong because race. All right, I got to split. All your racists are pissing me off with your racism. Your constant, nonstop, relentless siege of racism that you're throwing at me is starting to wear me down. I'm starting to feel ontologically assaulted. There aren't a lot of us fluidly transracial people out there, so sometimes I feel alone. Sometimes I feel like white privilege is just the tip of the iceberg. It's like every color privilege over me. I got so little privilege. I lost all of my privileges to leave campus during lunch because they caught me smoking, but I wasn't even smoking. I was on fire. That's why I was smoking. I gotta go. I'm tired and I gotta go. But listen, everybody, let's try to be pleasant. So much fightiness around here. Thanks for scolding us, Eric. That'll help. Yeah, okay, you win. Got a good point there.